You are old, useless, always in my way! Leave my house!
And now, we invite you to dive into the story. Don't forget to subscribe to Betrayal as a TK, so I can stay connected with you and bring even more meaningful, powerful stories your way. Many years ago, Kamsi was just a skinny kid sleeping under the third mainland bridge, hurled into the cold concrete with nothing but a torn hoodie to cover his shoulders. At night, Lagos buzzed above him. Cars thundered across the bridge, horns blaring, music spilling out of passing danfas. But down where he lay on a soggy piece of cardboard, the world felt like another planet. Water slapped against the pillars. Rats rustled through trash. Somewhere far off, a generator coughed and died. He had learned 3 rules for surviving the streets. Keep moving. Trust no one. And never ever let them see you cry. He begged at busy junctions, wiped windshields no one asked him to touch, followed the smell of food from one buka to another hoping for leftover rice. Some nights he scraped together enough money for a small plate of jollof and a tough piece of meat. On the bad nights, he drank water until his stomach stopped screaming. Then came the night everything changed. It was raining hard. Kamsi shivered underneath the bridge, pressing his back against a pillar to escape the wind. His cardboard bed had turned to mush. Water seeped through his shoes. Lightning flashed over the lagoon, turning Lagos into a skeleton of pale lines and dark shadows. Headlights slid down the ramp. A black SUV, huge, shiny, far too clean for this part of the city, pulled over and stopped. Kamsi froze. He had seen men step out of cars like that before. Some handed out food. Others handed out trouble. His instincts told him to run, but he was too cold, too tired, and a little angry. If they want to chase me away, he thought, let them come and do it. The back door opened. A tall man in a dark agbada stepped out, sheltered by an umbrella his driver held over him. Lightning flashed again, and the fabric shimmered. His face was strong, lined the kind of face you saw on newspaper covers, not in real life. Chief Adnuga. Kamsi recognized him instantly. Everyone in Lagos knew that name. Chief scanned the area, frowning slightly. Then his eyes locked onto the soaked boy huddled beneath the bridge. You, he said, his voice deep and steady. What is your name? Kamsi swallowed. Kamsi, sir. How old are you? He didn't know for sure. Maybe 12, maybe 13. He guessed low people trusted smaller kids more. 11, sir. Chief studied him for a long moment, as if weighing something heavier than the rain. Why are you here? He asked. Where are your parents? Dead, sir. The word dropped out of him without emotion. No story, no tears. Just the truth worn down to a blunt edge. Chief stepped closer, shoes splashing through shallow pools. Raindrops hit the umbrella like tiny bullets. You sleep here? He asked. Yes, sir. And you eat how? Any way I can, sir. The man's expression didn't soften, but something in his eyes shifted like a locked door cracking open. He turned to his driver. Bring him to the car. Kamsi panicked. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'll leave if you want. Chief raised a hand. If I wanted you gone, I wouldn't be talking to you. Get in the car, boy. You're coming with me. And just like that, the street kid under the bridge was lifted out of the darkness and dropped into a different world. The Adnuga mansion didn't even look real the first time he saw it. Tall, smooth compound walls, a glowing courtyard fountain, rows of trees standing like soldiers. The air smelled of polished wood and expensive soap. Inside, everything gleamed: floors, chandeliers, framed photographs of smiling families, weddings, graduations, business conferences. He didn't belong in any of them. In the kitchen, a woman with warm brown eyes and a patterned wrapper tied around her waist stepped forward. Mama Amara, Chief said, nodding toward the boy. This one will be staying with us. She looked at him, really looked. Not like people on the street who check pockets and distance. She looked into his eyes, noticed how his fingers curled into his sleeves like he feared someone might steal even his fear. "And your people?" she asked softly. "I have none," he murmured. Something in her face melted. "Then from today," she whispered, "you will have at least one." She stepped forward, adjusted his damp collar like a mother would. "My name is Amara," she said. "You will call me Mama. Come, let's get you something warm to eat." Life in the Chattanooga home came with rules. "You will wake early," Chief said. "You will go to school. You will read more than you talk. You will learn to listen. And you will work twice as hard as my own children, because the world will not be kind to a boy who once lived under a bridge." He taught Kamsi how to tie a tie, how to look people in the eye, neither shrinking nor puffing up. He taught him to read balance sheets, to study markets like weather patterns. "These are not numbers," Chief would say. "They are families. They're jobs. They're lives. If you're careless, you're not just losing money, you're breaking homes." At night, when Chief was still at the office, Mama Amara sat with him at the kitchen table, guiding his hand as he traced English words in old notebooks. "Sound it out," she would say patiently. "Again, my son. You won't always be the boy from under the bridge, but you must believe that first." School wasn't easy. Other kids whispered, mocked his accent, his scars, his silence. "Bridge boy," they called him. Every time the words hit him, he felt the cold concrete under his back again. But instead of fighting or running, he held on to Chief's warning. The world is watching what you do with this second chance. So he worked. He studied while others played. Sat quietly in boardrooms while other teens were learning to drive. Sometimes Chief took him to meetings and sat him in the corner. "Watch," the man said. "You will speak when you understand the cost of your words." Years passed. The boy under the bridge became the young man in the suit. Then cancer came like a thief. One day, Chief Chattanooga's voice still boomed across his office. Months later, he was shrinking into hospital sheets, skin loose, eyes too bright. Outside, Lagos moved on, markets rising and falling, traffic choking the roads, but inside that hospital room, time shrank to the steady beep of machines. One rainy evening, Chief waved everyone else away. Only Kamsi and Mama Amara remained. "Kamsi," he said weakly, "do you remember the night I found you?" "Yes, sir. You were not afraid." "I was," Kamsi whispered. "I just hid it." A faint smile touched Chief's face. "That is why I chose you, not because you were pitiful, but because you were hungry. Hungry to live. Hungry to become more than life gave you." His trembling hand reached for a folder, documents, seals, signatures. "A Chattanooga group needs someone who knows what it means to have nothing," he said. "Someone who understands power is a loan, not a birthright." Tears burned behind Kamsi's eyes. "Sir, I'm not ready. No one is ever ready," Chief murmured. "They simply choose to step forward." He placed the folder in Kamsi's hands. "You are my son," he said. "By choice, not by blood. And I choose you again now. Continue this dream." His fingers closed weakly around Kamsi's. "Do not forget where you came from. Do not forget who held you up. Promise me." "I promise," Kamsi whispered. Chief closed his eyes, as if the promise itself finally gave him rest. He never made it home, but his decision did. When the will was read, the room filled with lawyers, distant relatives and polite smiles, board members who held their breath. When they announced that Kamsi was the legal heir, the air shifted, jaws dropped. Whispers rose. "The boy from nowhere? The street kid is taking over?" Kamsi felt every stare, every doubt pressing down on him. But when he looked to his right, Mama Amara was there, quiet, steady, unmoving. When he stood to speak as the new head of Chattanooga Group, his voice trembled for 3 seconds. Then he remembered the soaked cardboard under his back, Chief's voice in the rain, the small kitchen where a woman had called him my son long before the world recognized him. He straightened, he spoke. And from that day on, no matter how heavy the meetings, the responsibilities, or the expectations, Mama Amara stood right behind him. Silent, strong, and unshakable. At a high-profile fashion event in Victoria Island, he met Chisholm, and his life veered in a direction no one could have imagined. That night, the Lagos shoreline glittered like a string of fallen stars. Victoria Island throbbed with life-sleek luxury cars, camera shutters clicking non-stop, and the biggest faces in entertainment crowding the red carpet. Adenuga Group was the main sponsor of the show, so Kamsi attended as the guest of honor. He came out of duty, expecting nothing more than another formal appearance, until his eyes landed on a woman who made the entire room tilt. Chisholm. She stepped out from backstage as if the spotlight had been created just for her. Slim figure, smooth brown skin like fine silk, sharp red lips, and eyes that knew exactly how powerful they were. Every step she took carried the quiet message that the whole world existed just to look at her. Her dress sparkled as if it had been woven from moonlight over the ocean, and when she turned and met his gaze, just for a second, his heart skipped a beat. For the first time in years, he who once slept under the Third Mainland Bridge and now sat as CEO of a powerful group, suddenly wasn't as sure where he fit in the room. All over Lagos, people called it love at first sight. Maybe they were right. Chisholm swept into his life like a sweet storm. She called him the strongest man in Lagos, held his hand in front of the press, and laughed under the camera flashes like she had been born to stand next to power. Their romance became headline material. The orphan CEO and the queen of entertainment. It was the kind of story people believed only existed in Nollywood films. They married in a lavish beachside ceremony, with the ocean winds singing and the waves crashing against the shore as if they were blessing the union. But weddings end. Real life begins. And that's when the masks started to fall. Within the very first weeks, Mama Amara noticed what Kamsi could not. Chisholm was all sweetness in front of her husband, but every time Mama Amara walked into the room, the younger woman's face turned to ice. One morning, while Mama Amara was cutting fruit for the family, Chisholm spoke without even bothering to look at her. "Can you move a little faster?" she said sharply. "I'm going to be late for a press briefing." Her voice was like glass cutting through the air. Mama Amara stayed silent. She was no stranger to harsh words. Life had thrown many her way, but she hadn't. She expected them to come from her own daughter-in-law. Then came the constant complaints. "She walks too slowly. She's always in my way in the kitchen. She doesn't understand my new lifestyle." Kamsi heard some of it, but he brushed it aside, thinking it was just women in the same house needing time to adjust. He believed time would smooth things over. Time didn't. It only made the real Chisholm more obvious. She started coming home late, always blaming the demands of the entertainment world media events, brand meetings, designers, and late-night strategies. But the unfamiliar perfume and lipstick marks on wine glasses in the living room were telling another story. She spent money like he owned the entire Central Bank of Nigeria. Dozens of new dresses every month. Shoes flown in directly from Paris. Spa packages and surprise yacht weekends. "A beautiful image is an investment," she would say, lips curled into a confident smile. But the bills rolled in like a rising tide. Through it all, Mama Amara became the last thread of common sense holding that household together. The breaking point came on a Friday morning. Chisholm swept into the living room, holding a bright pink planner, eyes shining with excitement. "Mama," she began, "I need $200,000 for my 30th birthday party. This year, the big media houses will be there. I need an event no one will ever forget." Mama Amara looked at her for a long moment, not with anger, but with a deep, tired sadness. "My child," she said softly, "that money is the sweat and bone of your father's hard work. It's not meant to be burned in one night. You shouldn't be so wasteful." Silence fell over the room like a sheet of broken glass. Chisholm turned slowly. The smile was gone. Her voice turned to steel. "And who exactly do you think you are? To tell me how I should live?" Mama Amara said nothing. She just held her gaze, the look of a mother who knows she has spoken the truth, and also knows she has just wounded a very dangerous pride. From that morning on, something dark took root in Chisholm's heart. A hatred so deep, it would drag the entire family to the edge of ruin. After pulling his mother back from the freezing snow, Kamsi turned to face Chisholm. Melted snow dripped from his coat onto the marble floor, mixing with the cold that seeped through the entire house. But none of it compared to the cold tightening inside his chest. Chisholm stood in the middle of the vast living room, arms crossed, the golden lights carving sharp lines across her face like a blade. She let out a mocking laugh, her lips curling as if what he had just witnessed was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. "I can't stand that woman," she snapped, her voice shrill. "I'm sick of this house, Kamsi." The words cracked through the room like glass splitting. Kamsi looked at her, his eyes darkening. Inside him, anger rose like an August storm in Lada's, hot, violent, and without warning. But he swallowed it, forced it deep into the place where his heart had learned to endure and survive. "You threw my mother out of the house," he said, voice rough like gravel. "In the cold. On Thanksgiving." Chisholm rolled her eyes, as if he were exaggerating. "She's always in my way, always making me uncomfortable," she shot back. "I just wanted some peace." I didn't know she was that fragile. A tremor went through him, not from cold, but from the effort of not yelling. Mama, Amara, the woman who had raised him when he was a trembling child under the Third Mainland Bridge, had been treated like disposable clutter. Earlier that day, as he carried her shivering body from the gate, her hands ice cold against his chest, all he thought about was her safety. Now he had to face the truth. The cruelty of the woman he once loved. That night, long after everyone had gone to bed, Kamsi sat alone in his office. The sound of sleet tapping the windows blended with the heavy, uneven rhythm of his heartbeat. One thought spun in his mind. If Chisholm could do that to his mother, what else was she capable of? He picked up his phone and dialed an old contact, a corporate security investigator. "Who do you want me to look into?" the man asked. Kamsi stared at the wedding photo on his desk, him in a crisp white suit, her glowing like a Nollywood angel. "My wife," he said. His voice was cold as mist. 7 days later, a small USB drive was placed on his desk. "Kamsi," the investigator said quietly, "you need to see this yourself." Kamsi opened the file, and his heart dropped out of his chest. Footage of Chisholm walking into the Continental Hotel with Dapo, the deputy director he trusted, the man he had promoted because he believed in his work. Next clip, the two of them holding hands in the hallway. Then an audio recording whispers, and a laughter cold enough to cut glass. "Dapo, once Kamsi loses control, the company will be ours, Chisholm. A homeless boy like him? Easy to overthrow." The whole world tilted sideways. Kamsi didn't rage. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He simply went silent. A dangerous kind of silence. The next day, he summoned Chisholm to his office. No assistants, no secretary. Just the two of them and a stack of photos lying between them like a verdict. Her heels clicked sharply across the floor as she entered. She sat down, twirled her hair, and gave him a half smile. "You called me so urgently. Did you miss me?" He didn't answer. He didn't even look at her. He simply slid the stack of photos toward her. They spilled off the edge of the desk. Chisholm picked them up, and her expression shifted. But not to guilt. Not to fear, only confusion. Melting into defiance. "And so what?" she said, chin lifting. "You can't keep my heart. Who do you think you are? Some homeless boy who got lucky?" The words stabbed him, not unexpected, but still painful. Behind them, Mama Amara stood in the doorway. He didn't know when she arrived. Tears slid down her cheeks, but she didn't sob. Not because she was weak, but because the pain was too deep to make a sound. She stepped forward and placed a hand on her son's shoulder, a support Chisholm could never understand. Her voice was soft, but it sliced through the thick, suffocating air of the room. "My son, forgive if it gives you peace." She paused, then spoke each word slowly, deliberately, so he would not miss it. "But my child, you must never forgive in order to stay a victim." The next morning, as sunlight spilled through the glass windows of Victoria Island, Kamsi placed the divorce papers in front of Chisholm. The warm golden light stretched across the dark mahogany table, drawing a line that seemed to split the room in two, one half peaceful, the other moments away from breaking apart. Chisholm stared down at the document, then back at him, her eyes widening in shock. Not because she regretted anything, but because she never expected him, the man who once loved her blindly, to go this far. "Kamsi, what is this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Kamsi didn't take a seat. He stood tall, shoulders rigid, as if he knew that if he allowed himself to soften even for a second, every ounce of strength he had left would collapse. "I can endure betrayal," he said, each word landing like a stone on the floor. "But I will never forgive someone who threw my mother out of her own home." Chisholm's expression shifted rapidly, from shock to crying to defiance. She shot to her feet. "You don't understand. I was just angry. It was her fault. She kept interfering with everything I do." "She is my mother," Kamsi said, his voice cold as glass iced over. "She raised me when I had no one. She stood by me when my father died. You pushed her out into the freezing night. And now you want to blame her for it? I didn't mean to." She screamed, tears streaming. "You have to believe me." "No," he said. "I have to protect my mother." The words hit her like an invisible slap. And in that moment, she finally understood. All the power, glamour, and glittering parties she brought into his life could never cover up one simple truth. She had struck the one place in his heart that was sacred. Panic flashed through her eyes. "You can't do this. You need me. I am your image. I am your future." Kamsi shook his head. "My future is not tied to someone who can't honor family." "But I love you," she cried. "What do you love?" He asked quietly. "Me or the company? The luxury I gave you?" Chisholm choked on her words, because the answer she wanted to give was the one he had already seen in her eyes long ago. Kamsi walked to the door and pulled it open. "You leave today," he said. "The gate will close behind you, and it will never open again." Chisholm screamed, grabbing his wrist, shaking him as if she could force his heart to turn back by sheer will. But Kamsi did not move, did not bend, did not waver. "You're destroying our love," she sobbed. "No," he said. "You destroyed it long before today." Mama Amara stood on the staircase, one hand gripping the railing, her face heavy with sadness but calm. She watched without speaking, because she knew this was no longer a battle between her and her daughter-in-law. This was her son's battle, with his own blindness. In the end, Chisholm dragged her suitcase to the door and stepped out. Each step echoed like a drum, announcing the fall of a castle built on illusions. As she walked past the towering iron gate, sunlight glinted off her tear-streaked face. She turned back to the mansion one last time, the home she thought would always be hers. But the gate slowly swung shut. The metallic clack echoed across the courtyard, a small sound yet powerful enough to sever everything that once tied them together. Chisholm vanished from his life like a storm passing through, leaving damage, but also leaving lessons. Meanwhile, Dapo, the man who dared to betray him, faced a very different kind of reckoning. When Kamsi stepped into the boardroom, the entire executive team fell silent. A thick folder lay on the center of the table, filled with evidence of corruption, embezzlement, shady deals, and the recording of his plot to overthrow Kamsi. Dapo's face drained of color. "Kamsi, I can explain." "Don't," Kamsi said, cutting him off with a simple gesture. "I don't listen to explanations from someone who tried to destroy my family and the company my father built." Dapo stood, trying to summon whatever confidence he had left. "You have no right." "I have every right," Kamsi replied, "because I never forgot where I came from. But you forgot who lifted you up." The board's vote was almost immediate. Not a single person sided with Dapo. When two security officers entered the room, Dapo struggled, but it was pointless. His career ended in the very room he once imagined himself ruling. That same day, the headlines exploded. Adenuga deputy director fired and charged for corruption. A final period at the end of Betrayal, 1 year later. Lagos had changed, or perhaps it was Kamsi who had changed so much that the city now saw him differently. The towers of Adenuga Group, once shaken by betrayal, now stood firm like pillars holding up the sky. Revenues soared, international projects expanded, and the name Kamsi Adenuga became a new symbol of resilience and rebirth. But inside him, that rebirth didn't come from power. It came from someone who had stood quietly behind him all along. On the morning of the press conference, Lagos was unusually clear, the sky washed blue as if cleansed by a secret rain during the night. More than 300 journalists from across Africa filled the grand hall of the corporation. The lights blazed bright, and the LED screen displayed the company's new logo, a stylized pair of hands lifting the sun. Kamsi had chosen it not for its aesthetics, but for its meaning. Every light only shines because someone, somewhere, once lifted it up. Behind the stage curtain, he adjusted his suit collar, but his hands trembled slightly. Not from fear of crowds, he had faced meetings far tougher than this. Not from the media, he had survived more scandals than a lifetime should allow. He trembled because of the person standing beside him, dressed in a soft emerald gown, her eyes carrying a gentleness untouched by time. "Mama," he said quietly, "are you ready?" Mama Amara smiled, her gaze warm like morning sunlight. "You're the CEO, my son. You're supposed to ask yourself that, but you're the reason I'm standing here," he replied. She patted his hand. "Then speak from your heart. That's all you need." When they stepped onto the stage, the entire hall rose to its feet, applause crashing like waves. Not only for Kamsi, the young leader who had saved the company from collapse, but for the woman who had taught him how to stand tall in the first place. Camera flashes glittered against Mama Amara's lined face. She looked a little overwhelmed, yet her smile never faded. The press didn't know much about her, only whispers of her being the adoptive mother of the CEO. But everyone in the room felt the warmth radiating from her. When the hall quieted, Kamsi approached the podium. He scanned the sea of faces, expectant journalists, loyal employees, investors who once doubted him. Then he looked at Mama Amara sitting in the front row. He drew a long breath. "Today," he began, "Adenuga Group has reached the strongest growth milestone in its history." Applause erupted, but he lifted a hand, asking for silence. "I'll be honest," he continued, "this success isn't because of me." The room stilled. Hundreds of recorders leaned forward at once. "It's not because of my talent or my hard work alone," he said, voice steady and resonant. "It's because of the woman who taught me the meaning of gratitude." He extended his hand toward Mama Amara. Every head turned in her direction. "The woman who picked me up from loss," he said. "The one who taught me that true strength isn't power, it's compassion. The one who gave me a home before I ever understood profit. The one who loved me long before the world ever knew my name." Mama Amara lifted her hand to her mouth. Her eyes glistened. "If I stand here today," he finished, "it is because of Mama Amara, the mother behind every victory in my life." For a moment, the hall was silent, the kind of silence born from genuine reverence. And then applause exploded like fireworks, like rain pounding rooftops, like waves crashing on the shores of Victoria Island. Journalists rose to their feet. Some wiped tears. Camera flashes burst again, not in search of scandal, but to preserve a rare moment of sacred love. Mama Amara could no longer hold back. Tears spilled, not the bitter tears life once forced her to swallow, but different tears altogether, softer, warmer, tears that reached deep into the soul. For the first time, not from sorrow, but from pride. A legacy can be inherited, but gratitude is a choice. And the one who honors his mother is a man who never loses himself. You rewatching Betrayal is a TK, where African stories touch the heart and remind us of what truly matters. Kamsi's story shows us this. Wealth isn't measured by what you own, but by the gratitude you choose to carry. A man can build an empire, but if he forgets the person who lifted him up when he was at his weakest, then all his victories become hollow. Mama Amara had no power, no titles, no fame. But she carried something no one on earth could ever replace, a mother's unconditional love. And it was that love that helped Kamsi stand firm through betrayal, greed, and every storm life threw at him. So if this story made you pause for even a moment, ask yourself, am I honoring the person who has quietly stood behind my success? Sometimes, just one thank you, one message, one embrace is enough to warm the heart of someone who has sacrificed a lifetime for you. Where are you watching from? Share your location. Let Afrital's ATK know where this story reached you in the world. And if you want more stories that move you, more lessons that stay with you, subscribe to Afrital's ATK right now. Afrital's ATK, where every story is a heartbeat.